now. Okay, so Mr. Jones's presidency was after Sam Houston. What happened in Sam Houston's presidency that made people start realizing that they potentially need more protection from Mexico? What occurred during Sam Houston's second term? Omari?
Mexico attacked them, and they can defend.
Mexico attacked who? I don't like the word them.
Texas.
Attacked Texas. And Texas realized, oh wait, we can't defend ourselves. So people started discussing it, and the Texans knew they needed to be annexed, okay? So Jones's two goals were to get Texas annexed and to continue the goals and policies of Houston. Because the goals and policies Houston had in place were positive. They were good goals and policy. It works. So why change something? Yes?
Who did it? Who didn't?
This is Anson Jones.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I thought. Sorry.
We just have it recorded. It's okay. Blake gets to listen to it when he gets home. He'll have a laugh. Okay. Where it says foreign policy, scratch out the foreign part. Scratch out the foreign part because it's just policy. He has two policies. One's foreign, one's domestic. Okay? He wants to keep peace with the Native Americans, and he wants to convince Mexico to recognize Texas as independent.
So he pretty much wanted to do what Sam Houston did.
What was one of his goals?
Keep peace.
No, what was his second goal?
Oh,
Sounds pretty good so far. The Native Americans. Establish peace with the Native Americans.
Okay. The question is, yes, it sounds like a good idea to annex, but we really need to weigh the pros and cons. Okay, it's kind of like making a pro-con list. How many of you have ever done that before? Okay, I'm going to do this, and so here's my pro list, here's my con list. Let me figure out what my decision is, okay? The pro-con list for annexation. Okay? To annex. There's positives here. Mexico posed a threat to the U.S. To Texas. Can the U.S. protect it? Can the U.S. protect Texas?
yes.
Yes. Check. Done. Okay? That's a positive. Mexico owed a lot of money. Who can pay it off? United States. Check. Done. Okay? Texas owed a lot of money. Sorry. Texas owed a lot of money to people. Who can pay it off? The U.S. Texas had currency, didn't they? Like money. Was it worth anything? No. Okay? Lamar messed that all up. So by joining the U.S., all of these things could happen. Is Texas wanting all three of these things to occur? Yes. Okay? So these are three really positive things. But there's negatives too. The negative. If Texas joins the U.S. as a slave state, the balance in Congress is upset. Problem number 2 has to do with U.S. facing a depression. Okay? The U.S. is owing more money than they're bringing in. Okay? Ideally, they would add territory, and that territory would be able to contribute to the bottom line. Instead, if Texas were to come into the United States, Texas does not contribute money. They contribute debt, which makes the depression in the United States what? Worse. So the next one, negotiations. Do we need to go back?
No. Yes. Not an enchilada.
Question is, how do we annex Texas? Well, they try it two ways. The first way is with a treaty. The second way is with a joint resolution. Okay? There are two ways to annex Texas. The treaty. The Treaty of 1844. Okay? In the Treaty of 1844, it is proposed that Texas join the United States as a territory. That Texas join the U.S. as a territory. Okay? What is the difference between a territory and a state? Hannah?
Would the territory be owned by U.S. if they don't really get the country, they don't get the help from it? Or
They do get help. So the territory is owned by the U.S. Territory does get help. Territory does get money. Territory would get their debt paid off. But what does a territory not have or have the privilege of that a state would have the privilege of? Nicholas?
but a territory is still independent?
No, not independent.
Wait, does it get protection?
Yes, yes.
They don't get to vote like on president and Congress and government things?
Very good. A territory has no say in how the government is run. Okay? The territory has no say. So what did Texas just fight for? Independence. Why?
They wanted to say in their government.
Because Texas wanted to say in their government and Mexico wasn't giving them that option. Texas isn't too keen on this whole territory idea. But it would pay off the debts and it would give them protection. Okay? They also would have to give up all public land. Any land that is not owned by an individual, they would have to give over as control to the United States. Like, the U.S. could do what they want with it. It's a pretty big problem. But Texas is so desperate that Texas agrees to this treaty, but the U.S. rejects it. Okay? The U.S. rejects it. So, the next place to fill out, the U.S. Congress gets together and writes a joint resolution that gets Texas annexed.
Where's the last one?
The what? What's the bullet point?
So what does this joint resolution say? Well, Texas can join as a state after the Texans approve a constitution. This isn't going to be too hard. Why? Basically, Texas has to rewrite their current constitution. Why is this not going to be a difficult task?
Because they use the United States Constitution as an example.
Very good. The Texans use the U.S. model, U.S. Constitution as a model. The Texans just need to change from president to governor and from country to state. And some of the ideas need to be changed so that they're no longer a country thinking, but they're a state way of thinking, supporting the U.S. Constitution. Not hard to do. Texas gets to keep all their public land. Texas gets to control all of that land. If Texas wants, they can divide into as many as 5 different states. Obviously, Texas didn't divide into 5 different states. Why do you think Texas stayed as one state? Raise your hand and tell me, why do you think Texas stayed as a whole instead of breaking into 5?
They stayed as a whole because they're like bigger, kind of like if they were ever to leave again, like they could like sustain as a whole state.
Okay, that's part of it. What did I teach you at the very beginning of the year? More land, more power. Okay? Now, they didn't have the Electoral College and all that stuff back then, but they do today. Does Texas have more power in Congress because of our size? Yes. Okay. And the last one is Texas was able to enter as a slave state. So, how did United States fix that issue?
Not no state.
U.S. Well, they didn't really add a free state. They allowed territory that was already a part of the U.S. to then decide if they're going to be slave or free. Because previous to that, they had to come in, if they were above a certain line or below a certain line, it was already decided for them. At this point, other states get to decide what they want instead of being told. Okay?